boogeyman is real, and you found him.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
7 days.
I am Dracula.
We have such sights to show you. Boy!
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
I am the eater of worlds and of children.
What's in the fucking box?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
One by one, we will take you.
Never get out of bed again!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
Welcome, horror fans. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast where Friday the 13th is an official holiday. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember we do this live every preceding Wednesday right here on YouTube, so we hope to see you in the live chat. Come hang out with us. This week, we are looking back at select horror films released September 8th through September 14th. Thank you all so much for joining us for what will surely be a bloody good time. I am your host, JL. I hope you are all doing well. Ooh, man, we got some interesting stuff on the docket tonight. Some really interesting stuff. But first, before we dive into anything, we got to make sure we put up that Patreon banner. All those amazing people who help us to make the show, their names are there on the banner below. We appreciate it. We couldn't do any of this without you, especially all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah, really excited. Very cool. We couldn't do any of it, so thank you very much. We appreciate it. We are currently waiting to see if we, with the current news with 11 to 6, the current horror show that we got going on. Pretty sure we announced that we got into Chicago Horror Film Festival. That was the latest update. So we got to that. We're hoping to hear from Atlanta here pretty soon. See if we get notification on that one. But we're 5 for 5 currently as far as festival submission goes. Really excited. But the next few weeks are going to be jam-packed. It's going to be like, we're supposed to hear about on the 8th, on the 16th, on the 27th, hopefully we'll be getting those emails soon. So fingers crossed. Yeah, but we're really excited about that. But we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you very much, all those people down there. Let's see who we have in the live chat tonight. Let's see. We got Casey Cooper is here first. Good to see you, Casey. Thanks so much for being here. Raven Darkstar as well. Good to see you, Raven. Casey Cooper says, let's see. There are 52 weeks in a year, so that means 52 shows. This is episode 51 of season 5, so that would mean we have one more to do next week, and season 5 will be concluded. That is correct. You are correct. Your math is on point, Casey. Next week will be the season finale of season 5. And it is always exciting. It's always fun. We talk about some movies there and kind of like look back on, this will be 5 years. 5 years of Week in Horror. 5 years, and we have yet to miss a week. Like every single week for 5 years straight. We've been doing this show. It's a labor of love. We absolutely love it. So, but yes, you are correct. Next week will be the season 5 finale. Travis Brown, good to see you, who said he just watched The Outing, aka The Lamp, on Shout Factory Blu-ray. Good to see you, Travis. Thanks so much for being here. Let's see, who else we got here? Raven, I did say hi to Raven. I often, you point out that sometimes I miss you. Good to see you, Raven. Gabba to you wrote in no less names. Says, what do you call Bigfoot driving an SUV? A suburban Sasquatch. I like that. Let me see who else we have hanging out with us tonight. I saw Lieutenant Jedi's in the house. Good to see you, Lieutenant Jedi. Raven Doctor says at this point, start calling the JLTP 2000 show. Right. And pretty much, there's more TP 9000 fodder than there really is like stuff that's not. But everyone is a gem. Well, not everyone. 0.01% are not gems. I will say that. Lieutenant Jedi said, you talk about the art, the art on the poster. Yeah, I can see that. The villain from The Keep. I can definitely see that. Let's see, who else we got here? Elizabeth S. is in the house. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for being here. Joshua Lee as well says, happy Wednesday, my dudes. Good to see you, Joshua. Sarcasm as well says, good evening, y'all. Good evening, Sarcasm. Omni Orosboro says, Jay Well. Good to see you, Omni. Thanks so much for being here. Surf is in the house. Been a while, Surf. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for hanging out. Let me see. Who else do we have here? Make sure I didn't miss me. Oh, I think I caught everyone so far. Hopefully, we'll get some stragglers coming in here, or maybe people lurking. Omnio says every single week. That's insane. I know, right? It is totally. It's been a blast. It's both exhausting, but it's wholly rewarding. Because we get to hang out with y'all. We get to kind of get over the hump the hump in the week. Get over weight, because we're right there in the middle of the week. So we're gonna push through it. And what better way to talk about stuff that we love? Especially deep diving horror films, which is something that I love to do. So, I figured, why not? So a lot of fun. All right, but before we got now, this is really, really cool, and I've been saving this because it just dropped a couple of days ago. I think it dropped it was day before yesterday, a couple of days ago. So I have not watched this, but I saw it drop, and I immediately pulled it like the day of. I think it was like day before yesterday. Immediately pulled it so that we could watch it together. I have not watched this. I don't know if the other guys in the crew have seen this before, but I have not. I have, even when I was editing it, I was really careful to not watch it. Okay, but we have loaded up in the Terror Tube the official trailer for Terrifier 3, which has just dropped day before yesterday. So we have the official trailer for Terrifier 3. I have not watched it. This will be a first for me, and I've got it loaded in the Terror Tube, so we're going to watch it together. So check it out now. Terrifier 3, official trailer. Let's check out the Terror Tube. Just check it out. Cue up the Terror Tube. I fucked it up. I totally fucked it up.
Give me back my child! That motherfucker don't love you. Nobody loves you. Certainly not your bitch-ass mother.
Drink up.
I'm vegetarian. You were a vegetarian. Now you're a wormitarian.
Who's driving?
Jump! What? Jump off! Now! Jump off!
You survived the most famous serial killer since Jack the Ripper. The 5-year anniversary is coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. Want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your brain when he's close enough to you. You feel his breath.
I saw him today. Who? How can you be sure it was really him? I could feel it.
Who is this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Why would he come back here? Even if he was alive, which he isn't. Wouldn't you want to get as far away from here as possible, as far away from you?
We both know this isn't over. I have to go back to the Terrifier.
It's still buried there, isn't it?
It might be the only thing that can stop them. Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.
Yes, 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 and more yes. That was the trailer for Terrifier 3, the official trailer for Terrifier 3. I'm so hyped. Okay. It looks amazing. We don't know much about it, but it looks like, Travis Brown just wonder if this is going to have an origins to Art the Clown, because it does look like Damien's hinting at that as far as that. I do know that Damien dropped some hints on his official Twitter that the shower scene is like this, because each movie has its one big set piece. It's like one big, traumatic set piece. The first one in the first Terrifier was the naked chick who was bifurcated with the rusty hacksaw, down, and then the second scene was the girl being tortured in her bedroom, where Art literally rips her apart and she's like still alive and everything. So that's the second one. The third one is supposed to be, he's hinted that it's the shower scene is the third one. That's the big extreme one. The two people in the shower with the chainsaw. That one goes over the top of the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. But we don't know. He's hinted at that, but it could be a misdirect, because Damien's a crafty motherfucker. I'm for one, am excited. I cannot wait to see it. Terrifier 2 blew my mind. I did not think it was going to be able to top the first Terrifier. Terrifier 2 went above and beyond, and now the production value looks amazing. Cinematography looks fantastic. He's gone from this grungy indie deal. If you think about Art the Clown first showed up in All Hallows Eve and then All Hallows Eve 2, and that's where the character kind of started. Not played by David Gordon, not played by the actor we know now, but the character has popped up a couple of times. Then it popped up in Terrifier, and that was when David Howard Thornton picked up the role and started running with it. It did an amazing job. He also played the Jester in a movie that recently came out called Trick, I think. Was it Trick? Or was it the Jester? Anyway, but he did amazing work in that one as well. He's a great physical actor. And the production value keeps getting better and better and better with each one. So it's gone from this grungy kind of indie that's thrown together, where all the money was spent on the practical effects to make him as glorious as possible, with a protagonist that doesn't speak and is just goofy as shit. And then with a villain that doesn't speak and is goofy as shit. And then it's just, 2 was just it was a monster on top of that one. This one is just going to be absolutely amazing. So October 11th, exclusively in theaters, Terrifier 3. And then obviously it's going to be coming to Screambox as well. So, look forward to that. It's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward. So let us know down in the comments below if you are looking forward to Terrifier 3 coming out this October. Christmas is coming early with this bad boy. And if you haven't seen any of the Terrifier films, I strongly recommend you jump on them. They are not to be missed. As gruesome and graphic as they are absolutely enjoyable. Okay, it's unlike one of the movies we're going to talk about tonight. One of the extreme ones we're going to talk about tonight. The Terrifier films are amazingly done, and very just well done. Across the board. Art the Clown is a new horror icon for all intents and purposes. Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton created an amazing freaking character. So looking forward to Art the Clown, or looking forward to the return of Art the Clown, Terrifier 3, October 11th. Let us know in the comments if you're looking forward to it too. Hell yes. And I see some new people jumped in. I see John Monahan is here. Says, what's up, scary peeps? Good to see you, John. Travis says, I've never seen any of the Terrifier films. You need to get on that, sir. That is the thing you need to have corrected. Okay? I write you a prescription. Terrifier 1 and 2. Go see them immediately. Let's see. I Killed Earl is here. Good to see you. I Killed Earl says, nope. Oh, you would love these films. You would love them. They're hardcore, but you'd love them. I Killed Earl says, what makes them so good? So, movies like this, with the type of horror that Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton are creating, the movie, it's on the spectacle. It's about the spectacle, but there is a fine line. There's a tightrope to walk when you're creating a movie sheerly for the spectacle of it. You could go way too heavy into the overwrought, where everyone takes it way too seriously, and the film just becomes maudlin in spite of the gratuitous, the gratuitous extreme, you could say the transgressive appeal to the film. Or you can play it for what it is, and that is almost on a meta side, but you don't want to go too meta. And the balance, that balance is walked very, very carefully. Damien knows just how to balance in between a meta commentary and a maudlin, self-absorbed, exploitation fest. So it's very, I liken Damien Leone's vision to, I thought I totally spaced, Herschel Gordon Lewis. To Herschel Gordon Lewis's exploitation films of the 70s and of the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. Herschel Gordon Lewis, known as the godfather of splatter horror. Gordon Lewis knew how to balance that, where the movies do not take themselves so seriously because we're here for the splatter and the effects. He knew where to put his money, and he knew and he cast very, very well, not for the sake of their performances, but that these actors wouldn't drive the film into a narrative territory that it's not meant to go, that would ostensibly drag it down. He knew where not to put anchors on the film. So he knew how to drive it. His vision was pure in that respect. It is what it is, instead of trying to be something it's not. And Herschel Gordon Lewis was a genius at that, and I think, in my opinion, Damien is as well. And Terrifier walks that line very, very carefully as an indie film because it's extremely low budget. They put the money where it needed to be. I mean, in the first film, like the ending autopsy scene when supposedly Art is dead, and the ending autopsy scene, the set itself was somebody's garage, and it's very, very obviously somebody's garage. Extremely low budget, okay? But the production values have gotten better because Damien does such a fantastic job, and his vision is so on point with what he's trying to accomplish. Not to mention David Howard Thornton bringing his A game as Art the Clown, and then getting to expand that role, have more fun with it, more production value because he's gotten more money because of the popularity of it, that only allows you to do even more and really, really solidify what you want to do instead of just trying to get your story across, as cheaply as possible. And hopefully we will see that with Terrifier 3 as well. Like, the production value is amazing. The production value on 2 was just, by comparison, it's almost like two different movies. You wouldn't expect it. Like, the production value is so increased. And that's why they're amazing, because Damien is a fantastic director with a fantastic vision, and he knows how to shoot a movie. He knows what he wants and he goes for it. Doesn't try to make it out into anything that it's not, which is what makes it so good. So yes, there are some stomach churning sequences in these films. I will not lie to you. There is some shit that you may find hard to watch. Okay, but that's the nature of the beast in this respect. So, but I think you definitely should watch them. I think you would enjoy them. All right, Joshua Lee says, by the way, Terrifier and All Hallows Eve is available for streaming free on Tubi for those interested. See? And it's free on the internet. Go see it on the internet. Free on Tubi. Gotta love Tubi. Don't mind I could do without the ads. I wish Tubi had an ad-free experience, but still, it's free. You can watch. Travis Brown says, hard to watch? Bring it on. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Art the Clown will bring it. He's such a cool dude, David Howard Thornton is such an awesome guy. He is so cool. All right, but yes, let's dive into our selections tonight, because we're going to kick things off and we're going to dive right into it, because iKiller says, I like gore and psychological horror, jump scare stuff. Oh, this is definitely not jump scare stuff. It's not James Wan, Lee Wannell jump scare formulaic stuff where you can almost count the beats to the jump scare. It's not like that. It is prolonged, extensive, gratuitous violence, and I would say bordering on torture porn in that respect. But it doesn't. It's not really a commentary on anything. It's like I said, Leone is not trying to create a commentary on anything. Okay, so, and no sarcasm. The Terrifier films are not harder to watch than this first film we're going to talk about. But let's dive right into it. This one was rough. So the very first film that we have up tonight, and this is probably why Eugene wasn't here tonight, or anybody else was, because I think I was the only one who was able to sit through this movie. It's free on YouTube. If you want to go watch it there, the remastered version is the remastered re-release version is up on YouTube. But the first film we have up tonight, released for the first time. Hey, Armageddon's Fire, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Cindy Sue as well, good to see you. Appreciate you hanging out tonight. Released for the first time in the U.S. It saw its U.S. release September 9th, 1996, but actually released in Germany, in its native Germany, in 1988. So this released in Germany at the same time that, Child's Play was hitting and, Jason was taking Manhattan. But yes, released for the first time in the U.S., September 9th, 1996. Took that long to get it to the U.S. We have Nekromantik. Now, first and foremost, I have to point out, there is no trailer for this. There is no trailer that I can show you for this. Okay? Hank's Corner. Good to see you, Hank's Corner. Appreciate you hanging out. I saw your name pop up earlier, and I will definitely say hi to all the sex ghosts for you. I will. Yeah, they know. They know. So Omnivorous Sports is remastered version of what again? It's called Nekromantik. Nekromantik. So Nekromantik. Okay, so let's just run this down. Written and directed by Jorg. I'll see if I can pronounce his last name correctly because it's German. Jorg Butgereit or Butgereit. Jorg Butgereit. And co-written with Franz Rodenkirchen. Starring Daktari Lawrence, Beatrice Manowski, and Harold Lunt. Shudder has it as well. So yeah, if you're subscribed to Shudder, it has it as well. But if you don't have that subscription, you watch it on YouTube. This film is the Nekromantik is the first feature-length film done by Jorg by Butgereit. It was his first feature-length. It was basically his feature-length directorial debut. He had done a number of short films before he got the opportunity to do this one. He'd done a number of featurettes, and he typically shot in the Super 8 format. But getting the opportunity to do this one, he was able to shoot this one on film, and despite the fact that this film has absolutely no budget, like virtually no budget to speak of, things are kind of like put together as necessary. There's an almost ad hoc sensation, like a prevailing sense of just ad hoc or like reactive decisions made during filming of this, because it's very, very obvious, because everything seems very it feels very much like the directing, and not only the directing, the cinematography, and the acting are all on the back foot, if you get what I'm saying there. Everything just kind of like happening in response to Jorg's script. So one thing is to be said, that this film is deeply, deeply, deeply controversial, predominantly because of its transgressive, it's extremely transgressive subject matter, which includes themes of like, animal killing, necrophilia, extreme paraphilias, shit like that. So thank you so much, Anna, who gifted 10 memberships to the Week in Horror. 10 memberships to the Army of the Dead. I appreciate that, Anna, and good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. And then, of course, B. Blanco has become a new member of the Army of the Dead. Thank you so much, B. Blanco. I do appreciate that. So, yes, Casey Cooper, there is a trailer for this. It is on YouTube, but I cannot show it to you. Okay? I can't. Because that would age restrict. That would essentially put a hard line on who could watch this episode. So I can't show you that trailer. All right, unfortunately, not in a live stream. To sum it up, the film follows not really a protagonist, Robert Schmotke. Okay, Robert is married to his wife Betty, and they live what appears to be a normal life, but behind closed doors, they are both extreme death fetishists in that respect. Both of them engaging irregularly in necrophilia and basically maintaining that lifestyle behind closed doors. When Robert is unexpectedly fired from his job, his world begins to fall apart, and he descends into madness and extreme depravity in response to that stressor, ultimately culminating in an obscenely graphic conclusion to the film. I had to renew. I got a new debit card. Come on. We go. I got you, B. Blanco. I got you, B. I do. Paraphilia. Why do you have to bring fruit into it? I'm trying to find a place to start on this one. Now, this is one of those films where I think the film is important itself, because it is an example, because despite the grotesqueries on screen, that the extremely low budget, almost no budget practical effects tend to make even worse, especially the sequences with the drowned corpse that Robert brings home as a gift to his wife and the things that they do with it, without going into too much extreme detail there. Despite all that, this film I feel is important, but it also asks a really pertinent question when it comes to transgressive subject matter, because transgressive subject matter, or things that, subject matter that is designed solely to shock and appall for the sake of grabbing someone's attention. Think very much Seven, like John Doe. To get people's attention, you can no longer tap them on the shoulder. You have to hit them with the sword. If you want to get someone's attention, you can't just tap them on the shoulder. You have to hit them with the sledgehammer. Then you'll find you have their strict attention, in that respect. You got to hit them hard. And in this respect, that is what Jorg is doing. Because Jorg's message here is phenomenally deep for such an extreme film. The themes of this movie are, especially for the time, for the late 80s when the film was done. It was shot in 87, released in 88. The themes of the time were extremely pertinent, especially for the Germanic, for the culture in Germany, and in the late 80s. And there is a great deal of overlap, I would say, with a movie with movies like Tetsuo the Iron Man, and what Shimizu was trying to do with his film. I would think that those two films, Tetsuo, despite not being as extreme as Nekromantik, the two films are in the same lane in that respect. Despite, like I said, the grotesqueries that you see on screen, from bringing home dead bodies to, the weird, the extreme sexual perversions, or I say the extreme sexual paraphilias, the paraphilias you see there, the stuff with the cat, and the stuff in the graveyard after that stuff. With Omnius is the real question: are there boobies? Yeah, you could say that there are. Yeah, but in this respect, the film is very much a nihilistic commentary on the German everyman. Just as Shimizu's Tetsuo was a commentary on the Japanese everyman. This goes all the way back to the German identity post World War II. Jorg obviously has some very, very explicit opinions as to the state of the German identity, as the state of the Germanic, or the German citizens' identity, or the cultural identity in the wake of World War II, and what the influence of those events have done to the average person, in his culture. Just as in Tetsuo, the everyman is a result of the influences of America rebuilding Japan after dropping the bombs, and then the capitalistic influence of America, colliding with the traditional influence of the Japanese culture, creating this kind of nightmare scenario in which it becomes traditional in which the tradition becomes to make money, resulting in the creation of what is called the Japanese everyman, or the businessman, or whatever like that, who literally devotes himself slavishly to his job, to making money, to being the breadwinner. As much as he would devote himself to a martial art, or studying history or calligraphy or something of that nature, or Japanese kanji. That whole mentality, the traditionalist mentality, being influenced by capitalism, resulted in this almost kind of slavish robot that denies the self in favor of materialistic gain, which in Shimizu's mind corrupted the idea of what it was to be Japanese. In Nekromantik, the efforts of Germany to kind of pave over its prior image post World War II, in order to kind of save face, an extra effort. Jorg has identified this kind of extreme cultural effort to put on a front that hides ostensibly what would be the nature of the Germanic people. Now, he's not saying that, and he's definitely not saying that all Germans are like, the Third Reich, that all Germans are like that. They're not. But the problem is that being yourself became problematic. That recognizing one's own identity and accepting what one was, like who you were, became problematic in the wake of the war. And so there was this cultural push to literally ignore the past and put on this facade that the world could more easily accept and hopefully one day forget about the events that took place, about what took place during World War II. And what that is eventually culminated in with the advent of Western influence is meeting with the kind of capitalistic idea and the keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up appearances and sacrificing what is essentially reality for illusion, is resulted in this incredibly this over compartmentalized idea of a person where where the people are so repressed that who they really are comes out explosively and often self-destructively. But the culture shift has pushed people towards self-destruction instead of outward destruction. So they wind up imploding on themselves because they can no longer reconcile who they are with who they are expected to be. Now, all of this is taken to its extreme, to the absurd conclusion, okay, where it's absolutely insane with the idea, and you can see this throughout the whole film when they show the exterior of Robert and Betty's house, which is completely pristine and normal, almost unimpressive in its presentation, and the things that are going on behind closed doors. The house is the mind of the German individual. What goes on is who the German individual is and how they are repressing that. Every time Robert walks out the door, he is repressing his identity. And the only reason he gets fired is when people start complaining about how he smells. Okay? Because of what, because you can't just deny who you are forever. Eventually, parts of it will come out. And people will begin to notice that. And as is reflected in the movie, when they unceremoniously fire him for that, instead of looking at his history, they just get rid of him. That is what happens. Is that the German society, isolates and ostracizes those individuals who do not meet the standard of what they're trying to sell to the world in order to make up for the past. So it creates this vicious cycle that, in trying to correct the past, they in turn forget the past and wind up creating a new negative feedback loop that results in more death and destruction. Instead of simply being able to reconcile the past and incorporate it and move forward with their head, move forward, however they deem fit. But instead of being able to do that like a rational human being, they instead choose the most irrational path, which is just a reflection of what happened in the past. Irrationality led to those events. An irrational response is leading to these events. And that is what Jorg sees across the board. What his initial, when he was young and he didn't have the money to really do something like that, it is obviously a very, very angry film. A very, very nihilistic film, because there is no hope whatsoever here, because he sees it as ultimately he sees it that there's nothing that the Germanic people can do, that the culture of Germany can do about these things. And that's what I found fascinating by the movie. Now, that's the themes run deep, and they ask hard questions. The kicker is this, and this is where you guys come in, where I think it's important to have this conversation as part of a group. Yes, Joshua Lee, this is also shown in how the corpse is treated, in my opinion. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and Ike Little brings up the Ubermensch versus the Untermensch. Exactly. So, the kicker on this one is that we have talked about on the show, we've talked about many transgressive films in the past. Another one that I found really, really fascinating was a movie called Found. Found was extremely transgressive about this kid who discovers that his older brother is a serial killer, and a particularly vile and brutal and savage serial killer. And he discovers this other identity that he did not know. And the kid's a horror fan, but it's when real horror meets his idea of fantasy horror, and how reality collides with fantasy, and what happens when those two can't be reconciled. It's an interesting character study in Found. But the kicker on this one is you have to ask. Someone brought up pink flamingos. Okay, extremely transgressive, grotesque, it's almost unwatchable in some sequences. The thing is, Pink Flamingos doesn't actually say anything. But Pink Flamingos is obscenity for the sake of obscenity, because basically kind of like in the pushback against censorship. Shutting down a voice for whatever reason can never be acceptable. Even if that voice walks up and dares you in the most obscene way possible, the most transgressive way possible, to shut it up. That it can't be done. And Pink Flamingos always felt to me like an exercise in literally shoving the First Amendment down the throats of authoritarians. That's what that film always said that to me. But films like that, they can lose their meaning behind the shock and the gore and whatever's put up on the screen. I think personally that Jorg had something very, very, very important to say here. There is an extreme social commentary that I think really, really touched on something very, very important when it comes to the German psyche post World War II, or what he saw it devolving into in the some 35, 40 years after World War II. Almost 45 years after World War II. And he saw where it was going. Just as Shimizu saw with Tetsuo, he saw what the Japanese man had become, what the identity had become, and what it was turning people into, to the point that they wind up self-destructing, which is exactly what happens in Tetsuo. Okay? Is that, well, technically, in Tetsuo, he winds up eschewing his identity in favor of destroying everything else. In the second one, it devolves into self-destruction and the destruction of everything external of oneself. And this is along those same lines. But Tetsuo, despite its extreme nature and a lot of the weird machine stuff, the weird metal fetishists and the stuff going on in that one, despite that, you could hold on to the narrative because of the character arcs. There were moments of lucidity when we're able to hang our hat on what the character is going through and the narrative that's being told to us, so we don't lose sight of that. I think that Jorg, in this case, may have gone too far in this, because I don't think enough people are able to see, from the general audience perspective, are able to see what he's trying to say for the sake of this. I get hitting people with a sledgehammer. You do not need to hit them, with a car, or run them over with a truck just to make a point, which I think is what Nekromantik is doing. And I think that's also why a few years later, when he released Nekromantik 2, which picks up because you saw the end sequence when someone was going to dig up Robert's grave after he was dead. He picks up Nekromantik 2. He goes into that one with a bit more hesitation. It's almost like, the hesitation mark should have been on this film, but they weren't. And he didn't learn he didn't learn what too far was until he got to this point. So Nekromantik 2 has a bit more of a softer tone. It explores extreme transgressive stuff, but it doesn't have as much of the strong, hard-hitting narrative or the undercurrent themes that Nekromantik does. And so Nekromantik definitely feels like kind of like Jorg had something to say and it literally exploded out of him, and this is what it was, in the most graphic way that he could possibly do it, in the most angry, nihilistic way that he could say it. And I think he got it out, because after this, even though his films have never shied away from extremity, they never do. His films do tread a bit softer. It's almost like Nekromantik was kind of like his splash on the scene. Now, I cannot say if the reason for this and the reason why the almost tone of his later films is different, is a bit softer in nature. I can't say that Nekromantik was this way solely so that he could make a splash and get on the scene and make a name for himself. Maybe it was all marketing. I have no idea. But I don't feel that kind of artificial sensation in this film. The way it's cut and the way it's paced feels extremely deliberate. The way it lingers on certain moments I get the feeling of intentionality behind that. knowing how you time scenes for editing, how you time the beats. So in that respect, I got to give it to him. But I think you can go too far. I think you can. I think Nekromantik does, because it's such an important message, and yet gets lost in translation because it's in German. No, but gets lost in the visual, in the cornucopia of horrors that you see playing out before you at such a creeping, almost cosmic dread pacing, where you know that as bad as it is, it's only going to get worse. It's almost like Human Centipede. Tom Six, who's also German in that respect. Tom Six, who, the pacing feels very the same. It's almost like Jorg and Tom went to kind of like the same, went to the, or learned from the same filmmakers, or, kind of trained in the same school. Is that the pacing is very, very similar to the first Human Centipede. Human Centipede 2, no, it's wildly different. But the first one has that same kind of tone. It's going to be horrifying, but just, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. Very, obviously body horror, is a lot of Cronenberg in there and a lot of horrific shit. But, Sir Cadam says, once you let the pressure out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. Right. I think he said what he was going to say, and then he didn't have much place else to go. So he kind of had to regroup and kind of start fresh again, because he went back to doing smaller stuff before he did another feature film. So, sometimes you just got to say something. And this is one of those films, I think, if you can stomach it, if you can get through it, that there is something pertinent there, especially from the eye of a German filmmaker, who born after the war and is looking at the world around him and judging it by its history and the direction it's currently going. The same with, Tetsuo, a man trying to make sense of the world that he is in, because he sees the absurdity of it. And he's trying to understand why it's that way and how people got that way, and saying that if we keep traveling on this path, it's only going to get worse. That's why I was both excited and not so excited to talk about Nekromantik, because the film is important. Because we talk often about how horror is the barometer for the pressures of society. That what we see in horror films, the films that come out, they touch on the things that we can't deal with, or things that we are having difficulty dealing with, or things that are topical at the time. Just like I like the current thing about LGBTQ rights going on. And then I saw The Glow of the TV. That's an important film. It touches, these films touch on these things. That's what makes them so great. And especially in the late 80s, to put something out like this, to challenge people in this degree, banned in multiple countries in that respect. You got to give them props for that. So, Omni, I would not say this, it's a film about family, I guess. So I guess. Yeah. Josh Lee says, are you saying Centipede 2 was worse? I say it's on par. I would say Centipede 2 is actually, I would agree with that. I would agree it's on par. It's on par. Tom Six was not saying anything with Centipede 2, because he tried to do like that. I think he was poking fun at meta commentary, and that one, like the whole meta analysis of films. But he's not really saying anything. He himself has stated that the Human Centipede films are not meant to say anything. They are literally obscenity for the sake of obscenity, because there are people out there that love obscenity. That's pretty much it. So, but I would say, as far as visceral nature, Human Centipede 2, duct tape and, staple gun, I would say that this is on par. That it's on par, especially the sequence with the baby and the car, the driver pedal, the gas pedal, hardcore stuff. Now, given the nature of this bad boy, sometimes harsh truths lie within, but you can overwhelm them if you're trying to do it. It almost becomes self-defeating. But to each their own. Everyone's got their own style. So my question is this. This is a little bit in depth. So feel free. I mean, those comment. If you comment on this, if you drop a comment, I want to know why. Were the themes, the underlying themes of Nekromantik, were they overwhelmed by the subject matter on screen? By those extremely transgressive themes, extremely beyond the pale of absurdities and obscenity. Were those themes overshadowed? Were you able to pick up on them? Okay, and if you were able to pick up on them, what was it that stood out to you that you were able to kind of hang your hat on. Because it was the cinematography for me, the cinematography of the movie, the things that he chose to linger on, and the commentary, especially the conversation between Betty and Robert when Betty's deciding to leave him, and the whole, like, you look at what we are and what we do, and yet I'm leaving you because you're not making enough money, you're not man enough. The absurdity of that sandwiched together. Okay? These things, you know, like, these are the things that kind of like I was able to hang my hat on and see that they're, you know, and see the underlying framework of this movie. But let us know down in the comments below, was the real subject matter, the underlying themes, were they overwhelmed by the visual aesthetic or the shit that was on screen, or were they not? And if they weren't, tell us why. Love to hear your thoughts. Let's see. Josh Lee says, if your family is the one from Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, then yes, this is a family film. Great. Paracord Princess, good to see you. Says, I couldn't finish Terrifier and refused to watch 2 or 3. You've got to watch him. Paracord Princess, you've got to. Andres Boros, I'm leaving you and taking the corpse. Yeah. Yeah. Table legs, man. Table legs. That's all we're going to say. But yeah. It's weird to run into one of those movies that is fantastic on one side and absolutely repellent on the other one. But this is interesting. Nekromantik was not as repellent as Brain Dead was for me, as Dead Alive was for me. Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive. Dead Alive was just like physically nauseating to me. I didn't get that with this one. Although I did see how this would put people off their cookies. I really did. I would put people off their lunch. I saw that. It's like, not everybody's going to be able to sit through this movie. You're going to get 15 minutes in and be like, and you're just going to repel. You know, I get that. It's part of the unnerving factor is the simplicity of it. You know, the simplicity and the fucking pastel coloring and shit is just, it's so unnerving, you know, that creates this like kind of like, you know, this discordance, this discordance in your mind, you know, which is you know, the discord in your mind, which is weird. Anyway, moving on to our next one. So yes, but yeah, Nekromantik. Whew, rough one. All right, up second, our second film of the night, released September 9th, 2022. We have the film Barbarian. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
He signed in. Then who is?
Come on, breathe. Right there. Come on, breathe. Breathe. Come on. Come on, please. It's her.
Get in there already.
Who are you?
Today, I'm an old woman.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. You're gonna flip when you see the inside of this thing. I mean, it looks tight, but once you're inside, it's like a mansion. It's kind of hard. Oh, come on. Are we really gonna do this again? Just get in the ship, Ruth. Oh, God.
Don't listen to him! Shut up, bitch! Drew!
Wait, talk to me, baby.
He wants... I'll snap your neck like a twig!
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
This is 476 Barbary, right?
Yeah, I'm renting this place.
No, I booked it a month ago.
Are you sure you have the right place?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do?
Why don't you come inside and we'll call these idiots. Why don't you just crash here?
Oh, no.
I don't know if you got a great look at this neighborhood, but I don't think you should be out there by yourself. It's dry and there's a lock on the door. By the way, I'm Keith.
Tess.
You take the bedroom and I'll sleep out here on the couch.
God.
Keith?
This process might seem overwhelming, but with a little practice, it can soon become a pleasurable experience. This is perfectly natural.
Yes, that was the trailer for Barbarian. So, written and directed by Zach Kreger in his solo screenwriting and directorial debut. And of course, starring Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, Justin Long, Matthew Patrick Davis, Richard Burke, and Kurt Braunholler. The film follows Tess Marshall, who is in town in Detroit for a job interview, and she decides she books an Airbnb a month in advance, but arrives at the Airbnb to find somebody else is there. It's Bill Skarsgård, but it's Bill Skarsgård. But yes, he is currently in there, so they were double booked, and she decides to stay. But after a couple things go down, she discovers that there is a hidden room in the basement, as you saw in the trailer. And exploring the basement, it is revealed that there are things about the house, about the history of the house, that are quite horrifying. And of course, shit absolutely gets real in this bad boy. Now, this one came out in 2022, so we are currently still under moratorium. So I'm going to do everything in my power to not spoil anything about the film. Okay. I Killed Her says that didn't tell me anything about what the movie is about. Exactly. I pretty much just recounted the trailer for you, without spoiling anything, because I don't want to spoil anything about this. The book, Bill Skarsgård's there, and hilarity ensues. Absolutely, it absolutely does. So I will give it this: the compelling thing about Barbarian is, one, it's inspiration, and two, the execution. Now, Kreger does a magnificent job here. Zach Kreger, I think he got his start on The Whitest Kids You Know, doing improv comedy and doing musical sets, stuff like that. And eventually he was able to segue into a film career after he won a bunch of awards doing his music and comedy. And first thing he goes into, horror film that he wrote that was inspired by something that a book that he had read. And he wanted to take the themes of that book into a massive direction. And so what I love most about this one is that, despite that, instead of really getting stuck in the idea of a singular source of inspiration, Kreger uses that as a springboard and delivers what is ostensibly an amazing mashup of subgenres, combining the haunted house tropes, combining the paranoia tropes, psychological horror, body horror, slasher tropes, working all of these together to weave an extremely compelling film that is not only extraordinarily well shot, beautifully cut, with everything, especially love the lighting on this one, the lighting on this, and the atmosphere that is created, and how the exterior of the house, the upstairs part of the house, and the basement, the sub area of the house, each have their own kind of character to them to reflect both their history and the denizens of what's happening there. And so, in that sense, it's this interesting. And the trailer makes the title seem nonsensical. You have to watch it without spoiling it. But the whole thing is a seamless effort that blends these subgenres together, and not only does it well, but does it extremely very topically. Okay, because the themes of paying attention to your gut instinct and recognizing red flags where they are, okay, instead of falling into what is expected of you and doing what your instincts are telling you to do, is very, very important. The themes here are very much of that, are very much in line with that one, and how we can lull ourselves into, because we are so desperate for comfort and so desperate for acceptance, that we can wind up lulling ourselves into a false sense of security because we're seeking something else instead of protecting ourselves. And that's how oftentimes we wind up encountering traumatic situations. The whole experience is grounded by 3 incredible performances. Georgina is magnificent in Tess, well-grounded, smart, capable, good decisions across the a couple of, I would say some decisions made out of curiosity, but a girl who knows, this is a girl who has seen horror films, okay, who knows you don't run upstairs when the killer is down there on the floor with you. You run out the front door, okay? The girl constantly looking for but also a good person. I love that, okay? And with Bill Skarsgård grounding that, Bill, ever since he played Pennywise, Bill has that fantastic ability to blend charm with with almost, I don't want to say menace, but uncertainty. There is an uncertain charm to Skarsgård's performance where, is he holding something back? Is he not? Is he being forthcoming? Is this who he really is? But it always seems like there's something this undercurrent of information that you may not be. But then again, both people are in situations where you maybe don't want to divulge all of that. So there's this, it almost feels they're back and forth as they get to know one another, to where they eventually get to the second act of the film. It almost plays cat and mouse. It almost plays to the psychological horror trope, which is just brilliant, and then lends itself to the further tropes that we run into. And then, of course, Justin Long, who I am going to just laud all day. I love Justin Long. I know that many of you love Justin Long, and that boy can do no wrong. It seems like Justin Long has the worst luck when it comes to horror films. When he's in horror films, I will say so. And the character of AJ was a mask off douchebag. But the things that are going on in this, that's the thing that makes Barbarian. If you consider 2021 post pandemic, okay, when you consider the Me Too movement, when you consider the fight for equality in all spaces, okay, expectations, what is allowable, privilege in these respects. When you explore and these themes are extremely relevant, especially when society was beginning to kick back up, people en masse were returning to work, or we were trying to reassert ourselves after the lockdowns and kind of get society going again, to refine that momentum, since we just basically pulled the car over, and now we got to get the momentum going again on this thing. And people pushing back against falling into old routines. Whereas much of our culture was ready to fall into those old routines as easily as like nothing ever happened. There was a whole new, I would say the last 2 generations who were unwilling to simply go back to the status quo. And we see that underlying tension, especially when we explore the history of the house and the history of the prior owner and how things have changed from there. And then I have to give props to Kreger for capitalizing on shooting in Detroit. Oh, Raven Darkster says, who is Justin Long? Really? Justin Long? You remember? I mean, he's been in so much. What can I name him from? Something? Dodgeball? He was in Dodgeball. He's been in a bunch of Kevin Smith films. He was in Drag Me to Hell. He was Alison Lohman's boyfriend in Drag Me to Hell. So there's too many movies I could name that he's in. I mean, but tons of stuff. But yeah, Justin Long is amazing. We love Justin Long. And so, Galaxy Quest. He was one of the nerds in Galaxy Quest. Thank you. Wrote no last name. Just caught me out there. Galaxy Quest. He was one of the nerds in Galaxy Quest. The ones that they call up in order to get the schematics of the ship. So anyway, but yeah, an absolute total douchebag. But everything you see happening here is things that happen, and I love that it's grounded in the realism of the choice to shoot in Detroit. Detroit, I did not realize. You hear about it, but you don't really. I guess you need to see it to believe it. I'm almost tempted to like travel up to Detroit just to see it for myself, because it would appear that Jeepers Creepers. Thank you, Angel Rivera. Jeepers Creepers as well. It appears that large swaths of that city have simply been abandoned, and that nature is beginning to encroach and retake these things, and basically retake the city. Trees overgrown, houses overgrown, things falling apart due to the pushback, due to the push in from nature. It almost seems like Detroit is just kind of like partitioning off the sections of itself and just letting it fall back to the world. And the house that they are in, if you notice, because you only see a scene of that when it's the house and it's night and it's all dark everywhere. Okay, but the house itself, the almost pristine nature of it, the beautiful nature of it, because it's a very, very nice house, being the only thing on that entire street that looks like that, especially when the sun comes up and you get to see how everything really, really looks. That's the, I Killed Those Detroit is depressing as fuck. Yeah. The only person I noticed dodgeball is Alan Tudyk. Gar, Steve! Yes, Steve the Pirate. So it almost, I Killed It says some parts look post-apocalyptic. I would agree with that. And the exploration of this, I love what Kreger does with this. He tackles these themes, very, very topical themes, sets it against a crumbling, almost post-apocalyptic background that has its roots in idyllic, the idyllic manufacturing heyday of Detroit, but right before the decline. When people started getting whiffs that things were starting to go downhill. And so these elements of our history, especially these elements of our history coming into conflict with one another, makes for a magnificent atmosphere, a magnificent setting for the horrors that exist just below the pleasant imagery of the house. What lies beneath in that respect. You see the kind of, I did not intend for there to be a theme here where the horrors are hidden behind the horrors behind the facade. It was not intended to be a theme for films here tonight, but I saw that kind of overlap there. And that's why I thought those would be. Now, I think if I go any further, I'm going to wind up spoiling. I don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen it. So I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a magnificent film. Beautifully shot, beautifully cut, with an ending, I think, that will hit you where you don't expect. I think the way that the film concludes, I don't think you'll expect it. Maybe you will. I don't think you will. It's kind of like, where it kind of goes from that. Justin Long is I love him. His versatility is amazing in this one. And Georgina and Bill have fantastic chemistry. And of course, Richard Brake, one of my favorite character actors, is in there. He was Doomhead in 31. You've seen him in a ton of shit. But Richard Brake in there is, it doesn't even have to say that much. Like minimal delivery, and he just exudes, the creep factor, which he just capitalizes on. So Zach Kreger gets all the lauds on this one, because he put together a magnificent movie that I think all of you will enjoy. That if you haven't seen it yet, that is absolutely amazing. He does have a new film coming out here pretty soon called Weapons. He's set to direct it, and I think it's going to see release in 2025. That stars Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, Benedict Wong, Austin Abrams, Amy Madigan, and June Diane Raphael. So big cast in that one coming up, and apparently it's centered around, I think it's set in the 80s, and it's set around a small community in Florida that interweaves a bunch of different plots around police corruption, generational trauma, witchcraft, satanic panic, and all that other stuff. And so, amazing cast set to star, and I'm really looking forward to Weapons coming out. But Zach Kreger, big name, up and coming, fantastic stuff. Oh, Tony Regime, good to see you. Says, when is it showing in Discord? When I get the opportunity. You know, I finally figured out how I could stream. I had a real problem with streaming, with live streaming to the Discord because of browsers, you know, shit like that. But I think I have it figured out. I think I probably could if I could just find the time. I really could, yeah. So, but yeah, check out Barbarian. I think that you will dig it. I think that you will. Okay, really, really, and especially I Killed Earl. I know you'll love it. You will love Barbarian. I have no doubt in my mind. All right, let's move on to our third film of the night. Number 3, released September 11th, 1987. We have The Outing, aka The Lamp. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube. Oh. I fucked up. I fucked up bad. I have a question for y'all. I totally spaced. My question for the audience tonight. Barbarian. Oh, Barbarian. Given the setup and what was going on, do you think that movie is sequel worthy? The reason I ask this is because it was about 6 months after the film released. There were some rumors that Kreger might have been working on a sequel. And whether or not it was going to be directly connected or a thematic sequel was uncertain. So, but continuing that, do you think a sequel, either thematic, like loosely connected, or even just a thematic sequel, like a sister sequel, do you think that would work? Capitalize on this, take it one step further. Or should he focus on other things? One and done? Or do you think it's worthy of exploring these topics maybe in another setting, in a different light? Let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Love your thoughts on that one. Is it sequel worthy or nope, one and done? Excellent. Ramdark says, I can get voice on Discord, no video though. Yeah, see, it's wonky. You know, the way that browsers have been screwing around with it, it's really, really tough. So, yeah, I think I've got it figured out though. Because I did a test stream and we watched Consumed. Rodent last name and I we watched Consumed in the Discord and he was able to see it just fine. A little bit of like syncing issues, but nonetheless we were able to watch it. But yeah, so let us know down in the comments below. All right, here we go. Released September 11th, 1987. The Outing, aka The Lamp. Here's the trailer. Let's cue up the terror tube.
Oh my god.
No talking in class.
You see him?
Is there like a call or something?
Come on, you monkey motherfuckers! Come on! You can't fuck with man!
Sweet.
Since the beginning of time, man has been fascinated by the mysterious, the unexplained, the unknown. Consider, if you will, the legend of the lamp.
Looks like something out of Arabian Nights. Oh, is it okay if I open it?
No, honey, I wish you wouldn't.
But think twice before you make a wish.
One thing, though, about the warning on the inscription.
What's that?
The former owner should have read it.
You've uncovered another King Tut's curse, huh?
For within it lurks the unleashed power of death and destruction. It can take any form. Strike any time. Anywhere. Alex knows.
I don't think I like this.
Quit worrying. You will before the night's over.
And soon her friends will too.
I miss you've got to send to Miss Wallace.
What's the matter? Afraid?
That there is no way on Earth
Something's wrong.
to put an end to the terror.
What can you do?
There's got to be an answer here.
But what is it? This can't be happening.
The lamp. Make a wish, if you dare.
Yes, that was the trailer for The Lamp, aka The Outing, which is what the official title was. But directed by Tom Daly, written by Warren Chaney, and starring Deborah Winters, James Houston, Andra St. Ivany, Scott Bankston, Red Mitchell, and Andre Chemin. The film follows a group of high school friends, who decide to stay overnight at the Natural History Museum, where the lead girl, Deborah Winters' character, Deborah, I've totally spaced on her fucking name. What was her name? Alex. Where Alex's father works. There, and she manages to sneak them all in. They're gonna stay overnight, but they encounter a monster. The creature from the lamp is what as it was, and of course, shit tries to get real. It's kind of funky because of the kind of effects, the Hellraiser / mausoleum style effects of this one, but it is not bad in any stretch of the imagination. But it doesn't really, I would say, it doesn't really add anything to it. Now, the interesting thing about this one is, it's a genie film. But genie in the sense that, not really falling in line with like the idea of the jinn. They actually bring that up, the Islamic image of they talk about the history of it as far as it pertains to Islam, but what you actually see, what we actually get, is not really that. I would actually say Wishmaster falls more in line with that, although more gruesome and grotesque. But the idea of what the jinn is trying to do and the purpose that it serves is a little different. But this one is just basically, it's a monster. One thing cool about this one is it was shot on location in Texas, literally down in Galveston and Houston. And I thought that was kind of neat because I used to live just a few hours from there. So I thought that was kind of neat. And with some exterior shots in Los Angeles. But the film itself is not, I would say, the only thing limiting this movie is the budget. Okay? That was the only thing holding this one back. The shit, I would say shit does get kind of funky. It really does. And Wrote It in Los Angeles says, never spend the night with ancient things. True. Never spend the night with ancient things. And Travis Brett says, though none of the characters made a wish with the jinn. Exactly, because that's not how it functions. Because the jinn does not grant wishes. In this one, the jinn does not grant wishes. It simply targets an individual. It latches on to an individual to keep itself safe and alive. Because the jinn is bound to the lamp. And so, to ensure that it's never destroyed, it latches itself onto a person by way of the bracelet. They put the bracelet on that binds them to the lamp, and so they have to keep it safe and they have to keep it away from everybody. And so they sequester the lamp away and keep it hidden. And if they don't do that, it will kill everybody around them. So it essentially, kind of by virtue of the isolation, it winds up protecting the holder and itself. But and that's how the lamp winds up in the hands of the Natural History Museum, is because the movie starts out with the old lady who arrived in Galveston on a ship with the lamp as a young child, and then we see her as an old lady in this house, isolated, alone, and she's got the lamp like hidden away in this chest that's hidden in a wall. And then, of course, the robbers break it open. It's like, and then they open it up, and boom, it just murders everybody. So I would say the only thing holding back The Outing was the budget. There were some solid moments, some good things that were done as far as the late 80s go. Some of the decent effects, some decent puppetry effects, I think, were good. The practical effects were on point. This obsessive need to push the supernatural, especially when Alex comes into the picture, I thought was a little off-putting, because we didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't have a lot of that stuff at the very beginning. The opening sequence, the only real kind of it's supernatural was the green color overlay over the eyes, was when the old woman's body is possessed and then comes back and kills one of the robbers, because that's what it does in that respect. But it gets overwhelmingly, almost obnoxiously apparent later in the film, which kind of, I think, detracts. They didn't need to go that hard in it. I understand they were trying to sell the idea, but it didn't need to go that hard. Not to mention, it was very obvious that Pepsi was, had provided financial backing to this, because there is Pepsi fucking everywhere. I've never heard of anybody enjoying their breakfast, even in the 80s, Diet Pepsi and Life cereal for breakfast. Very weird, but, nonetheless. I also don't remember. Now, a lot of you, I know a lot of you are older than I am. Why is it that 80s high schools, this is the thing that got me, it's not even about the monster. The monster is okay in small doses. Fully lit up where you can see it, it's very, very hokey. It's very hokey looking. Shadowed, appropriately lit, it's serviceable. Okay? The kills are kind of there. They're not extreme to a nature. Guy gets bitten to death by snakes. One guy gets broken in half. Another girl two people die the exact same way. Girl gets bitten to death by poisonous snakes that are brought back to life, and the snakes bite her in the tub, and she winds up dying of snake bite. Then they bite another guy through the pants leg. They crawl up his pants leg and bite him, and he just and he croaks, and he just dies. And then one guy gets broken in half. One guy gets it's just, the kills don't really go anywhere. I mean, they're not really extreme in that nature. And even in the body discovery sequence, when you have that, when the good guys discover the bodies, they're all in the same place. So it's like, what? And so, but the thing that got me is despite all that, the standout on this, I thought, was with 80s high schools. What's the deal with 80s high schools, huh? Especially in movies like this, because I swear, the depiction of 80s high school in movies, especially horror films, is that you would think that high school in the 80s was a fucking war zone. You had students openly assaulting other students, both physically and sexually. You had teachers and principals openly assaulting students. Like, what we see going on in 80s film when it's depicting high school obviously does not happen today. And I don't seem to recall that being the case back then. Even when, even though I was born in 80, I wasn't in high school until the 90s, until the late 90s. But even then, it reminded me, it conjured up images of Christine, when the shop teacher, when Buddy Repperton pulls out the switchblade and everything, and the shop teacher's like, "I've had enough of your shit." He grabs by the shirt and he's this assault. Okay? And he's got the blade. He's waving the blade all over. It's this is a common thing. And then it was and everybody just kind of accepts it. The whole sequence in the locker room was so woof. I was like, wow. And I thought it was just unintentionally hilarious. Bully, and not to mention, it opens up with the bullies literally committing vehicular assault by deliberately ramming into the back end of another car and trying to spin that out of control. And then they get pulled over by the cops, and then nothing happens to him. He doesn't get arrested. Then he goes home. Then he goes to school. And you have got open assault, open sexual assault, open racism, just across the board. I mean, that whole thing. But I did love that the writing in the locker room sequence was brilliant, especially between the principal. That whole if you want to see what Black Power is, that when he says, "Yeah, I could buy and sell you. My family could buy and sell you all day long." And he was like, "If you really want to know what Black Power is, I'm about to go off on your ugly white ass." Fucking writing is brilliant. So I will give it this. Tony Regime says, in the 80s, it was common for teachers to bully the kids. Raven Dark says, I don't really recall high school being that way. I don't recall it being that way either. I do know that teachers did not have a lot of the oversight and restrictions they have today. I do know that. But to openly... Okay, so Sarcasm says, believe a war-worn veteran. 80s high school was really like that, JL, but we weren't portrayed by late 20s actors. It's just like open wanton assault, really? You had a teacher beating another student with what is essentially a bow staff. Blah, that. And it was like, holy crap. And then he walks over to the lockers. And literally the bully accosts her, not just physically slamming her into the lockers, but damn near sexually assaults her. Okay, you saw where his hand was going, and she managed to fight him off until he like hit her hard enough, and then like she goes down. Okay, just like open fucking violence. Diet Pepsi plus milk plus life cereal equals deliciousness. Okay, I just thought the depiction of this, I was more enthralled by that, and I will point out, and somebody pointed out, Sir Cap said, they spent an hour trying to make us care about completely unlikable characters, then killed them all in the last 25 minutes. It was just bad. The film itself, like I said, the film doesn't do much. I found it entertaining in the respect that this is kind of a view of the 80s, when I guess filmmakers were trying to convey an idea and it just comes off goofy. Omni says maybe Galveston was like that in the 80s. Maybe it was. Maybe Galveston was just like that. Galveston and Houston. Maybe it was just like that. But nonetheless, it was the focus on that. The kind of like these self-absorbed high schoolers. Although I love the period attire. My wife also loved the period attire. Like the dress was fantastic. But the thing that got me was what they were trying to do with the character of Alex. Alex, ostensibly the final girl here, is not really a final girl. And that's the one thing that really kind of like dissociated me from the film, that kind of took me out of it, because the final girl definitionally meets specific standards as far as attitude and as far as characterization, as far as identity goes. The final girl is cut from a different cloth than everybody else, which is why she's the final girl. Alex exhibits none of that. Alex, for the better part of the film, is a victim. She is self-absorbed, as evidenced by the relationship with her father, with her single dad who's trying to raise her while he's working his museum job, trying to pay for their big ass house, doing like that. I just wish you were dead sometimes. Foreshadowing. And then of course her relationship with her boyfriend, where it's almost like she wants to be the strong, independent female, but when things don't go her way, she becomes a petulant brat. So the relationship with her dad is the petulant brat because he's the authority. The relationship with her boyfriend is that she's the dominant because she wants to be the one in charge, which is ostensibly why the relationship with the bully who she dated prior is the reason that ended, was because he was too aggressive and she couldn't be so they broke up because it wasn't what she wanted in a relationship, which is a legitimate reason to break up. But they're solidifying her character into just her core identity is victim, is literally she's playing the victim at all odds. Then she's taken advantage of by the genie of the lamp, because in a weirdly sexual way, rubbing the lamp, which was like the lamp itself, the design of that was way too phallic for my taste. I was just like, it was just kind of like too phallic for my taste, meaning it was too obvious. The way that she's like, edging the lamp and eventually to get this thing to open up. And then of course the thing it does, immediately she gets the lamp to the point, she winds up opening it, taking out the little ruby cork on the top. And then the first thing that happens is she gets possessed, is that she gets taken over. Okay. Which ostensibly you could say is a form of assault. She's victimized in that respect. She then goes on to set up the scenario where all the students or her friends are all locked in the museum with the djinn. Okay. And then the djinn leaves her, and then she's doesn't understand what's going on, and now she's a victim again. And then she only survives because someone else comes up with the idea of what to do. Someone else figures it out, and she just does it because she has the opportunity. And by the way, if you didn't catch it at 1 hour, 27 minutes and 30 seconds into the film, when after she's thrown the lamp into the furnace, if you didn't catch it when the flames are like that, you could see the blowtorch come off the side of the frame and blow the fire towards the deal, so to create the fire effect. So yeah, I happened to be watching. I saw the angle and I was like, wait, what the hell is that? It was the blowtorch coming into frame to blow the flame, to get the flame effect of her throwing the lamp in the incinerator. But yeah, that was the kicker. I didn't like what they did with the character Alex. That actress is far more talented. Deborah Winters is far more talented. Was far more talented and deserved a bit better than I think that she got. She essentially just a victim here. It doesn't make us like, we can't identify with her in any respect. And the one person that we do identify with, which is the boyfriend, the caring boyfriend who will step up and defend her. And even though he gets his ass kicked, but he's a good-natured dude, doesn't try to push her, do anything she doesn't want, winds up getting smoked. That was the dead corpse thing that got up and ate him like a zombie. Everybody that is strong in this winds up getting croaked. And the weakest person there, who only survives by way of the sacrifice of everybody else, by everybody else's sacrifice, manages to basically just eke it out. That came off as a bad commentary on the nature, I guess, of kids that age at that time. So I'm not saying that the commentary was intentional. It just doesn't look good. We can't identify with anybody, and we're just kind of left picking up the pieces at the end. So that's pretty much all I could really say on that. And the thing that could have held it back, obviously, some of the writing was really top notch. I thought some of the writing was really good and funny, and I enjoyed that. But the thing that held it back was the budget. I'm gonna cement it on that one. More budget, they could have done a lot better, but the writing did need to be tweaked as far as make us like at least our final girl, so that we can follow along and we can root for her, other than being like, oh, you got lucky. Not to mention, the overt Islamophobia, especially 80s Islamophobia, that was, with everything that was going on in the Middle East at the time, but that almost felt shoehorned in. You don't need to explore or exploit geopolitical tensions just to justify why the creature in the lamp is bad. That was just unnecessary. They could have made an allusion to Islamic belief, said what the jinn was, the creature of fire, that could either be malevolent or whatever in that respect, but they have to throw in the anti-Islam kind of like hints along the way to kind of like reinforce the idea that it is an evil, or basically the theme that everything coming out of Islam is evil. That just seemed very shoehorned in. That could have been a studio decision. In a redraft, they submit the script, it comes back to be like, we need to add this in a little bit more to really reinforce the idea that this is an evil creature by really pushing on the Islamophobia. That just seemed very shoehorned in and just kind of weak. So there's a lot of things going wrong for it. A lot of things going wrong in the film. A couple of things they got right, and could have been a lot better if it gotten the money that I think an interesting story could have deserved. Basically, a slasher type film with a djinn could have been interesting if they had the money to actually do it right, and a writer that wasn't willing to take the easy way out. Now, normally, I would ask if a movie like this was worthy of a remake, but there are so many overlying themes between this and Wishmaster. It almost feels like Wishmaster is a remake of this. Like, Wishmaster was what The Outing was trying to be. That's the sense I got. That's what we they wanted to do Wishmaster, but we wound up with The Lamp. But we got Wishmaster instead. But we got Wishmaster. So exactly, Travis said we got Wishmaster, so we're good to go. Andrew Divoff, magnificent as the Djinn in human form, was great. Great moments in that movie. So I want to ask you, Wishmaster, The Lamp, not the only evil Djinn films that are out there, especially Djinn horror films. So my question for you is, what is your favorite, or do you think is the best Djinn horror film or genie horror film? What do you think is the best? The best or your favorite? Let us know down in the comments below, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. And Tony Dream brings up, we got Long Time Dead as well. Exactly. Long Time Dead was good. Wishmaster is one of my favorite. When your horror icon comes in and kills, Candyman, Freddy Krueger, and Jason Voorhees all in the same movie, brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Circad says Aladdin. Nice. Circad says racism sprinkled on like powdered sugar on a chocolate cake. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Leprechaun into Hood. That's a leprechaun. It's not a djinn. It's a leprechaun. All right. But let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. All right. We got one more to jump on. I've been looking forward to talking about this one for a while now. So our last film of the night, released September 14th, 1990. I was 10 when this came out. September 14th, 1990, we have Grim Prairie Tales. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
What?
According to mythology, that's the inscription over the gates of hell.
What? I'm not going in there.
I'm gonna tell you a story that'll stick to you like an eyeball to a cactus needle. There is a grim menace in the West, stalking the weary traveler. Who are you? Its name is Terror.
I know a story.
From a deadly Indian ritual
I can't understand!
to backwoods justice.
People, there are bad people in the world.
Fear rides the range. You're not the weak-hearted sort, are you? From a beautiful demon
I know you're not gonna hurt me.
I didn't expect that. to a gunfighter's deadly dream.
Goodbye.
One bullet. I like it. Horror roams the wilderness. Feel the fear. Yours was a right one. In an all too wild west. Grim Prairie Tales, starring James Earl Jones, Brad Dourif, and William Atherton.
It's disgusting. It's just sick. Where did you dredge up a story like that?
You liked it. Grim Prairie Tales.
Yes, that was the trailer for Grim Prairie Tales. This is an old one that I've loved since I first saw it. It caught me. So, written and directed by Wayne Coe, the only film that Wayne Coe ever directed. This was his only. Wayne Coe was if I remember correctly, he was storyboard artist and set decorator. And this was his first directorial opportunity. And he jumped on it, he wrote it, he got to direct it, and that was all we ever saw from him. So Wayne Coe's solo directorial efforts, starring James Earl Jones, Brad Dourif, Will Hare, Mark McClure, William Atherton of Die Hard fame. You should remember William Atherton. And, of course, Lisa Eichhorn. The film is an anthology film where it follows the framing narrative. The framing device is two weary travelers. Brad Dourif's clerk, I believe it is Morrison. Deeds. Brad Dourif's clerk Deeds meets Morrison, played with this beautiful menace by James Earl Jones, who is a bounty hunter, meet together in the middle of the night around a prairie campfire, around Deeds' campfire as he's resting for the night, and they decide to exchange stories as kind of like is the way of the West. And the four stories that they tell between them are basically reflections of what the world was like at the time, both supernatural and non-supernatural alike, but they get progressively fantastic. And four compelling, I would say, creepy little tales, almost like a Western version of the Twilight Zone, as these two travelers try to one up one another. Now, the thing that grounds this one is it's often very, very weird. Oftentimes, in an anthology film, the strength is in the stories that are being told, and the framing narrative simply serves the purpose of allowing all four stories to coexist to one another. So it literally just frames it, and not a lot of power is given to them. The power in this one is in my opinion, the framing narrative itself, which is odd. I think is a success of that Ko knew where the strength was, and that the stories were going to be secondary to the two-hander effect of having Brad Dourif and James Earl Jones together at night around a campfire telling stories to one another. I could watch a movie about that all day long. Two magnificent character actors. By the way, it was James Earl Jones who actually did the voice work on the trailer itself. That was James Earl Jones doing that. But to have those two there working across from one another in a kind of two-hander, going back and forth, reacting to each other, two completely disparate individuals. A man of the city traveling to meet his wife, or to reunite with his fiance, and a bounty hunter who shows up in the middle of the night with a body that the latest guy he's bringing in lashed to the back of his horse. And how these two worlds kind of collide in the desolate frontier of the Old West. That is dangerous for many reasons, but that's what I also loved about this one, is that both these men know they know the land, and they know the danger that they're in, and so each one kind of like eases, because they're both unknown to each other. James Earl Jones doesn't deal with city people alike. They're unpredictable to him. He doesn't deal with frontier people, with frontiersmen a lot. So each one, they kind of like have this kind of like dance around one another until they settle down, and they're able to kind of like find a common ground in the stories they tell, and they wind up becoming what I would say fast friends. Finding that common ground in storytelling. That's also it rings to me, or it rings a bell for me, because I love storytelling. Storytelling is very important to me. I think it's the oldest and most unifying tradition that humans have always had, is telling stories about things. And so I love that was how that was portrayed here. And each one tries to like outdo the others, which is a lot of fun. And so then you get into the stories themselves, which is the old Indian, the supernatural Indian, or I'll say the Native American burial story, and then the beautiful demon wandering the prairies, luring in men. That story told by Deeds. That's the one who's like, that's disgusting. He was like repelled by it. And then of course the really hard hitting one, which was about the lynch mob, about the frontiersman, the homesteader, being drawn by the local community into participating in a lynch mob. And so to kind of like keep his place in society, and how we have that balancing act, which is just a gruesome non-supernatural tale, but a reflection of what life was like, during the Old West. And then of course the final one, which is my favorite, the best one for the last, which was the gunslinger, trying to get the sheriff's position, but had to win it in a shootout, in a duel with another guy to get the sheriff's position. And then upon killing a man, descends into insanity as the guilt of that, and quite possibly the ghost of the man he killed, haunt him to his own destruction. Fantastic across the board. I loved what everybody brought to this. William Atherton in the third one, in the lynch mob story, William Atherton really brought it. You don't often get to see him in like overly really dramatic roles. Often you remember him, William Atherton, from Ghostbusters. He was Peck. Okay, the kind of roles he took on were either semi-serious or like serious/comedy, where he was either made fun of, he was the butt of the joke, or he was the guy delivering the joke. You see that in Ghostbusters, saw that in Die Hard, the majority of the stuff like that. He's kind of the guy who's there. He's either driving the plot jeep, or you're there, and he's there to poke fun at. Rarely can he really. You don't often get to see him take the lead, but he does in this one, especially as the father who is forced into an untenable situation that he does not agree with, but must maintain the kind of societal commonality to maintain the safety and survival of his family, and then having to explain that to his young daughter, who witnesses the atrocities that he commits in the name of them, in the name of his family. So otherwise they could have been rejected, and they would have been out there in the middle of nowhere with nothing, because nobody would deal with them, because he's the guy, he was the odd man out. So that, I love this. Everything about this one is fantastic. And I think that the cinematography, because it was predominantly handled, this was the big kicker on this one. Cinematography was handled by Wally Pfister, who would eventually go on to win. Cinematography was assisted by Wally Pfister. Wally Pfister became an Academy Award-winning cinematographer, and he worked on this as a grip. But you can tell if you look at Pfister's other work, because he worked on Memento, he's done a lot of work with Christopher Nolan. This is one of his earliest gigs. You can tell there's a lot of influence that he had on this one. That there's a lot of the framings that you can see that I think that he supplied some input on. So, and it works very, very well. So Pfister kind of there showing his early chops. And then, again, that would go on to take him to win Academy Awards with Christopher Nolan later on. And then, of course, Janusz Kaminski did the actual cinematography. And let's see. Wait 1 second. Yes. This was the first one that Janusz Kaminski worked on. And so really, really talented people. So Poe surrounded himself with people who knew what the hell they were doing. So it delivers a really, really fascinating tale. And I love that the setting of the stories doesn't rely on the Old West, like the almost desolation of the desert to create the atmosphere, because it's all set at night. So all you have is two characters lit by campfire, which is in and of itself just enough. And I think that was a wonderful decision to make. Because campfire stories, what better about them? Simplistic, effective, the minimalistic nature of it. Obviously saving money in that respect, because you don't have to worry about extreme, like lighting deals like that. Okay, it's basically, you got your wides, you got your shot on Earl, you got your screen, you got your ECUs, because they're both sitting down. Then you got your ECUs on Durif, you got your full on Durif, and that's it. Easy peasy. You can focus on that and allow the actors to do the work themselves. And they carry this so effortlessly. And as their tiny little character arcs grow into two strangers who become friends. Especially at the very, very end when he realized that the body doesn't match the description of the bounty he's bringing in. He's like missing fingers. The guy has all his fingers, like, crap, wrong guy. So he just killed the dude who was innocent. It just dumps him out in the West. That's the Wild West. No, I love that one. So a lot of fun. A lot of people have pointed out that the film obviously is not in the sense like scary. There are no jump scares here. It's all thematic. It's atmospheric. And it is, I would say, the stories draw you in through their acting. The casting choices in this I thought were really, really good. And so being able to empathize and put yourself in the shoes of the characters that you're watching works a lot better here. So I think that's where the sense of kind of like the Twilight Zone Outer Limits kind of parallels get drawn here, where we're invested in those stories and not so much in the terror, in like the horror or the overwhelming dread works really, really well here, but the unknown, which was like the heart of what expansion into the West was. Expanding west. That was the unknown, the unknown, untamed territory. Whereas this is kind of like juxtaposing the unexplored, untamed territory of the world with the unexplored, untamed territories of the mind. And so I dug it. Yes, Sarcasm says Durif is an underrated god of acting. Absolutely is. So I missed the opportunity to meet both him and Fiona a couple years back. I was really upset by that. Their lines were just so long that if I tried to wait there, I would have missed other people that I wanted. So hopefully one day I'll get to meet Brad. I want to meet him. I've loved him ever since One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I absolutely crush on Fiona. I absolutely do. So I thought she was fantastic in Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and a number of the films that she does. Love her to death. First saw her in Arbor Demon. It's the first movie that I saw her in. I was like, Fiona Durif, is that Brad's daughter? Sure enough, it was. But yeah, Really, really good stuff. So Grim Prairie Tales, currently free on YouTube. You can check it out there. The quality isn't so great. It's pretty much still VHS quality, but it's not bad, you know? A lot of fun stuff. And just good stories. Not to mention just some fantastic acting from two incredible veteran actors. And James Earl Jones in a role that, you know, is so antithetical to what you expect, which I think is really, really neat. Brad Dourif, you know, also not the quintessential creepy guy, just a nice guy who's just trying to get across the plains to go meet his fiance. Two disparate characters meeting and finding common ground, and by telling scary stories. That is like the heart of like Week in Horror. You know, the stories we tell, how we rile each other up, how we scare each other. I think that's why I love this movie so fucking much. I think a lot of people would say probably more than it deserves, but this is one of those ones that holds a special place in my heart because when I was young, I was growing up in California, it was 1990. So yeah, actually, this would have been in I would have been in Texas at this point. There was a channel on the cable box, on my parents' old cable box, that I think it was 11, and channel 11, they showed like current edition and shit. You know, you had like the daily current edition of thing, but they showed horror movies. And they did it, I believe, 2 times a day. There was like an afternoon and an evening edition where they showed, that's where I saw a lot of the early horror films, you know, when I was growing up. So, was a lot of the 80s stuff, like Happy Birthday to Me. I saw that on this channel. Okay. And Grim Prairie Tales was one of those. And I remember the first time I watched it, I came in on the pregnant demon one because I didn't catch it from the beginning, but it was the pregnant demon, and then how she swallows him up with her vajayjay. It was like raw, and I was like, you know, and that got me because I was like 11 years old when I saw this. So, and I was just hooked. So, you know, there was one of the things that just got me, and so I had to watch this again. And that kind of macabre kind of like gets in and kind of set the tone. So that kind of like creeping cosmic dread, you know, I've loved it ever since, and it's influenced, you know, stuff like that. This is one of those films that influenced me in my work as both a writer and a filmmaker. So, you know, it's a special one for me, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you did enjoy it if you got a chance to watch it, since we announced it last week. But I don't know, Omni. I don't know if it was a Rogers cable box. It was brown, obviously box, pretty big, but a brown box with the red digital numbers and the keypad up top. And you had a remote, but the remote, like the range of the remote, would suck ass. But it was like literally brown box, red digital numbers, and that was pretty much it. Very, very simple. But that was our cable box. We didn't have all the pay channels. I think for a little while we had HBO, and that's how I got it. Like really got into Tales from the Crypt. But you know, it was that one channel. It was channel 11. And I remember they showed current edition, because I occasionally caught current edition, which was kind of like a salacious version of the news. And they always had their horror movies on, which I thought was badass. I wish I could remember more. Tony Regime says, I don't think that would be the scene I'd admit to being the one that got me hooked on horror films. What are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do? Travis Brown says, though Brad Dourif did not learn his lesson with the Xenomorph in Resurrection. Yeah, obviously not. So, but this is a solid one. So my question for you on Grim Prairie Tales, okay? What was your favorite part of the movie? Now, normally with an anthology film, we would ask, what was your favorite entry? But I'm going to include the framing narrative in this as well. Was it the framing narrative? Was it the old Indian burial ceremony, the supernatural Indian burial ceremony? One, where the guy gets buried alive, the pregnant prairie demon who lures in unsuspecting men. Was it the homesteader lynch mob one, or was it the gunslinger haunted by the ghost story? So of those 5, which one was your favorite? Let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. My personal favorite is the gunslinger one, because it was just so well shot. The framing of it, you know, the production value was amazing. Everything else was kind of minimalistic because it was shot outdoors, but this one was actually shot in a town. We get a sense of things during that time period. And I really, I loved the gunslinger one. Followed very closely by the framing narrative. It's almost a tie, but I'm gonna have to edge the gunslinger one because the concept of guilt leading to self-destruction, got me. I really love, I love the theme there. Paracord Princess says, well, now we know how jail became so twisted. It was a lot more than this. This was tame, a lot more than this. Happy Birthday to me was more extreme than this one, Yes, I am the same age as Olivia Munn. I am. And I hope, I know she had a health scare some time ago, and I hope that she's doing well. Jail will never talk about XX. We haven't gotten to XX. I'm aware of it. I know of it, but we haven't had the opportunity yet. So there's a bunch of movies we haven't talked about. Like there's lots that we haven't got a chance to talk about. But yeah, let us know your favorite down in the comments below. The Framing Narrative with Brad Dourif and with Brad Dourif's Deeds and James Earl Jones's Morrison, or one of the 4 stories within: the Gunslinger, the Demon, the Homesteader, or the Burial Ground. Let us know down below in the comments or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts on that one. All right, and that brings us to the best part of the night for you intrepid individuals who hung out with us. We have concluded our movies, so that means it is that time. It's trivia time. That's right, it is trivia time at the Week in Horror podcast, and here is your trivia question tonight. For the first person to get this correct answer in the live chat, you will get a special item for the Week in Horror store, so get those Google fingers ready. Here we go. What nonfiction book served as the direct inspiration for Barbarian? What nonfiction book served as the direct inspiration for Barbarian? First correct answer in the live chat gets a special item, a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. And Travis Brown nails it. That was quick. He probably read up on it just like I did. The book was The Gift of Fear. The Gift of Fear, which was a self-help book that was aimed at instructing people how to listen to their gut instincts and pay attention to the red flag, to obvious red flags, instead of ignoring them, because that's what society expects you to do, but to listen to your gut. And we see that numerous times in the film Barbarian, like, why don't you come on in? And then she pauses. Red flag. Listen to your instincts. All these moments where she the red flags pop up, and then she and then when she does, she doesn't listen to her gut. So that is what inspired the theme, the primary theme of Barbarian. So it was The Gift of Fear. Congratulations. And Travis Brown is giving his prize to Raven Darkstar. Excellent. I've got Raven's name down. Very generous. And we will get that printed and shipped to you ASAP. And I see 60 Second Skeptic is here. Good to see you, 60 Second. Always nice to see new names in the chat. So appreciate you hanging out towards the end here. But thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you next week for the season finale. And that, horror fiends, will conclude this episode of the Week in Horror podcast. We truly hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, smash that like and subscribe button, and be sure to hit that bell so that you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we close out Season 5 with a look back at the claustrophobic savagery of the basement, chilling isolation horror in The Last Winter, the return of an icon in Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and the 70s B-horror effort, Wolfman. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the artwork you see splattered all over our merchandise, which you can find over Teespring. And for more from Week in Horror, check out all the links that are down in the description. Join us on the socials for your daily splatter. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, all kinds of horror shenanigans. Or you can support the show through Super Chats, Super Thanks, PayPal, or even our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. So what are you waiting for? Join us. I totally went there so fast. As always, thank you all so much for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could possibly have. I have been your host, JL. We will see you all next week. And as always, stay scared.